Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Kim Schwabenbauer and I'm an assistant professor of nutrition and fitness at Clarion University. I'm so excited to present to you today the female athlete triad, which is critically important for you to know about as female athletes to ensure that you have the most optimal health throughout your athletic career. Our learning objectives are as follows. By the end of the presentation, you will be able to define the female athlete triad, and sometimes I'm going to refer to this as just triad or the triad. You're going to be able to discuss health consequences of the triad, describe who might be at risk for the triad and why, understand the screening and the treatment process for an athlete that does become diagnosed with the triad. And finally, we're going to review prevention strategies, what you can do today to make sure that you have optimal health and are preventing the triad, or if you need to speak to someone, who is that going to be? How can we figure out how to help you? So we're going to first watch a video that is by Mary Kane describing her experience with the female athlete triad. She also calls it Red S, which is a newer term that helps to define the fact that males can be affected as well by some of these hormonal changes if they don't have enough energy availability. So she describes it as Red S, but it is the female athlete triad as well. So I'm going to ask you to think about these questions. What moments in this film stood out for you and why? Were there any surprises? Anything that challenged what you know currently or you thought you knew? What messages or emotions or ideas will you take away from this film and why? What questions do you still have about the female athlete triad? And what connections can you make between this film and your own life or experience? Why? Does this film remind you of anything else you've read or seen? If so, how and why? So be thinking about these as we watch the video by Mary Kane, entitled, I Was the Fastest Girl in America.
I was the fastest girl in America. I set many national records, but I was a straight A student. When I was 16, I got a call from Alberto Salazar at Nike. He was the world's most famous track coach, and he told me I was the most talented athlete he'd ever seen. During my freshman year in college, I moved out to train with him and his team full-time at Nike World Headquarters. It was a team of the fastest athletes in the world, and it was a dream come true. I joined Nike because I wanted to be the best female athlete ever. Instead, I was emotionally and physically abused by a system designed by Alberto and endorsed by Nike. This is what happened to me. When I first arrived, an all-male Nike staff became convinced that in order for me to get better, I had to become thinner, and thinner, and thinner. This Nike team was the top-running program in the country. And yet we had no certified sports psychologist, there was no certified nutritionist. It was really just a bunch of people who were Alberto's friends. So when I went to anybody for help, they would always just tell me the same thing, and that was to listen to Alberto. Alberto was constantly trying to get me to lose weight. He created an arbitrary number of 114 pounds, and he would usually weigh me in front of my teammates and publicly shame me if I wasn't hitting weight. He wanted to give me birth control pills and diuretics to lose weight, the latter of which isn't allowed in track and field. I ran terrible during this time, but reached a point where I was on the starting line and I'd lost the race before I started, because in my head, all I was thinking of was not the time I was trying to hit, but the number on the scale I saw earlier that day. It would be naive to not acknowledge the fact that weight is important in sports. Like boxers need to maintain a certain weight, or everybody always has to study the math about how the thinner you are, the faster you're going to run because you have to carry less weight. But here's a biology lesson I learned the hard way. When young women are forced to push themselves beyond what they're capable at their given age, they're at risk for developing REDS. Suddenly, you realize you've lost your period for a couple months, and then a couple months becomes a couple years, and in my case, it was a total of 3. And if you're not getting your period, you're not going to be able to have the necessary levels of estrogen to maintain strong bone health. And in my case, I broke 5 different bones.
The New York Times Magazine
published a story about how Alberta was training me, and
So that's as far as we're going to listen to this video today. And what I don't want you to focus on is the fact that we're throwing Nike under the bus. What I do want you to focus on is the fact that Mary Kane was asked to lose weight and reduce her weight continually, be weighed in front of people. It caused a lot of psychological stress. And then she did lose her period for 3 total years and sustained many bone injuries and stress fractures after that fact. What is the female athlete triad? It was originally described in 1997 when we first coined these terms, and what it has to do with, or the main first terms that we talked about were low energy availability, but we were talking about this as if the person had to have an eating disorder. And then we talked about amenorrhea as being the next step, and finally this athlete having osteoporosis. It was first recognized as these 3 separate but unrelated entities. Now it's recognized by the ACSM, American College of Sports Medicine, as a spectrum of symptoms and conditions between health and disease. So you can see on the right-hand side in the green triangle, we have optimal energy availability, eumenorrhea, which is normally menstruating females every approximately 28 days, and then optimal bone health. As we start to reduce energy availability, with or without disordered eating, then we start getting some underlying menstrual disorders, maybe that the athlete doesn't even realize that they're missing their period for a few months and then it comes back. Low bone mineral density because estrogen is decreased. And then finally the red triangle, where we're definitely at low energy availability for a period of months or years. We have functional hypothalamic amenorrhea, meaning they've lost their period for at least 3 months, if not more, and then osteoporosis. So this definition was updated as this spectrum in 2007, and finally the most recent consensus statement was produced in 2014. So what does it mean to say energy availability? What are we talking about? That's the amount of energy remaining for bodily functions after exercise training. So it's dietary energy minus exercise energy expenditure. So for example, let's say an athlete eats 2,000 calories per day, and they burn approximately 3,200 calories via exercise per day. That athlete is eating 1,200 less calories than their body needs, and in this case, they won't have enough energy for regular bodily functions. And this can hurt performance, slow growth, and increase the risk of injury and illness. So that's basically what the second point is saying. When an athlete has low EA, physiological mechanisms suppress reproductive function, among other things such as cellular maintenance, growth, and thermoregulation, which means your ability to regulate your body's temperature. How does this happen? Some athletes naturally are on a diet because they're trying to meet a certain weight requirement. Maybe they're a boxer, a female boxer, and they need to be in a certain weight class. Maybe they're a rower. Maybe it's for aesthetic reasons that they're dieting and reducing their calories on purpose. Maybe it's unintentional, where an athlete doesn't realize how many calories they need to support their activity and all of this exercise that their coach is asking them to do, or that they're doing maybe a little extra on their own. And so it could be unintentional. Sometimes athletes aren't as hungry whenever they have a hard workout, so they just don't increase their calories enough. And finally, it could be because of disordered eating or an eating disorder, where they're purposefully removing certain foods or having a lot less of certain, of their total diet. They're just reducing it to the point where they're not eating at all, where they should be on a normal spectrum. So how does menstrual dysfunction occur? Well, it starts with low energy availability. So this may be due to, like I said, abnormal eating, dietary restraint, could be binge eating and purging, or just not matching your needs, your training needs. The hypothalamus then takes that produces the gonadotropin releasing hormone, or GnRH as we call it. It reduces this pulse, and it changes other important hormones that control appetite and metabolism. Then the pituitary gland also starts decreasing luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. And this tells the ovaries to produce less estrogen and less progesterone. Oleomenorrhea is when a normal menstrual cycle begins lasting longer than 35 days, or if an athlete has fewer than 9 menstrual periods per year. So this may be the first step towards a longer time where you don't have your period. Primary amenorrhea might be an athlete that is young, under 16, and really increasing their exercise, and they just never start to have their period even by age of 16. And then we have secondary amenorrhea, which happens with, let's say, a college athlete who decreases their energy and then starts missing menstrual cycles, and that is at least 3 consecutive cycles for a time period of more than 6 months in a female who was already previously menstruating. So this is how menstrual dysfunction occurs. What is the impact on bone mineral density? Well, what you ladies need to understand is that 60 to 80% is genetically determined, and 90% of peak bone mineral density is achieved by age 18 in females. So what you need to know is you're in sort of the prime years for increasing your bone mineral density. After age 30, bone mineral density starts to decrease a little bit per year unless you're doing some sort of weight-bearing activity and you're making sure that your diet is adequate with calcium and vitamin D. Well, if you're in this critical stage and you do not menstruate and don't have enough estrogen, now all of a sudden you're at risk for hormonal abnormalities, increase in bone breakdown, and decreased bone formation in this very critical time for you, where we want you to have the most bone mineral density you can possibly have and prevent osteoporosis and osteopenia later down the line. Overall bone weakness is what occurs, and that's what occurred for Mary Cain. She had stress fractures, and her career was cut short. What do we think about who is at risk? It's been reported that up to 70% of elite male and female athletes competing in weight class sports experience disordered eating patterns or eating disorders to reduce weight before competition. So who's at risk? Really, any female who is exercising is at risk. Any female who is increasing their activity. What you have to understand is athletes are under additional pressure. And I know that you understand this because female athletes experience these pressures because they want to fit in, they want to look good in their uniform. Maybe it's a swimmer who wants to look good in a bathing suit. They want to look like their peers. So reducing calories can be a natural first step for athletes looking to control body weight for either weight class reasons or, to increase their performance, or even aesthetic reasons, which means how you look. Exercising females are all at risk, but specifically sports where body weight or body type are important, such as triathlon, long distance running, cycling, long jumping, high jumping, ski jumping, weight class sports like I was mentioning, boxing, judo, lightweight rowing, taekwondo, or even aesthetic sports where people are looking at part of your performance is how you look. So gymnastics, cheerleading, figure skating, diving, or synchronized swimming. These are all sort of at increased risk because of those kind of pressures. So what are some health consequences of the female athlete triad or the triad? A negative impact on current and future bone health. We want you to have strong bones for the rest of your life, not just while you're competing. This may result, if you don't have strong bones, in stress fractures or delayed healing of fractures that you already have. Nutrient deficiencies. Athletes that are reducing calories sometimes reduce important vitamins and minerals, and this does not help athletes compete at the same level. Not only that, it hurts their health long term. Excessive fatigue. You won't be able to perform as well if you're tired, if you can't recover as well. Decreased training response, also an important aspect and not anything that anybody in this room wants. Increased recovery time. You won't be able to bounce back for your next workout. And overall decreased performance. You all put a lot of time and energy into your sport. You think about it, you worry about it, you want to be your best. The triad is going to reduce your health and also your performance. So what can we do? We can be honest when we look at our screening pre-participation form. The Triad the Triad Consensus Panel recommends screening questions. And so you will see these on your PPE, your pre-participation screening, very soon. And answer these honestly. Have you ever had a menstrual period? How old were you when you first had your menstrual period? What was your most recent menstrual period? How many periods have you had in the past 12 months? This helps us to identify if you are oligomenoreic or amenorrheic. Are you presently taking any female hormone pills such as estrogen, progesterone, birth control? Do you worry about your weight? Are you trying to, or has anyone recommended to you that you gain or lose weight? That could be a coach, a parent. Are you on any special diets, or do you avoid certain types of food groups? Have you ever had an eating disorder? Have you ever had a stress fracture, and have you been told you have low bone mineral density, osteopenia, or osteoporosis? These can all be a sign to help your coach and your family and your doctor understand if you are at higher risk for the female athlete triad. So, management and treatment guidelines. Our first and most important goal, if we realize that you're tending towards having the triad or already have one of the 3 areas, because it's actually diagnosed if you only have one of the 3 areas, you don't have to have all 3. The first and most important goal is to increase energy availability. You need to increase how much you're taking in. Food is fuel. You can also, and I'm going to ask you during this presentation, to calculate your energy needs. By going to this website, it's an energy availability calculator that was developed by the Female and Male Athlete Triad Coalition, so experts that created the consensus statement, and you can put in your body weight. The calculator converts that to kilograms. If you know your body fat percentage, you can put that in, and if not, you can take sort of a guess. Most females are in the range of 15% to 25%. You can put in how much your energy expenditure is per day. In this case, let's say the person is running about 8 miles per day, so 800 calories of energy expenditure. They ran that 8 miles in 60 minutes, and you can track your intake via MyFitnessPal or another tracking program to see approximately what your caloric intake is. And this person has an energy availability of 22.38 kilocalories per kilogram body weight per day. Remember that number, 22.3. So what does this mean? Well, research has demonstrated the following energy availability values are associated with various health outcomes. So if you're above 45, you're in an energy balance kind of situation. You have enough energy to support your sport. If you're at 30 kilocalories per kilogram fat-free mass per day, you're at the very minimum. The athlete that we calculated was at 23. Unfortunately, her EA is in a sort of moderate energy deficiency state. So she's between 20 and 30. She's not necessarily at the 30 that we at least need as a minimum for optimal reproductive and bone health. And then if you are even lower than that at 10 kilocalories per kilogram fat-free mass per day, you're in a severe energy deficiency. So use that calculator, put in your own values, and we'll see where you are. How do we treat the female athlete triad? As I said, the very first thing we do is increase energy availability. We increase our food intake. With that, some of our hormones start to come back, some of those anabolic hormones, and we increase bone formation. We start conserving more energy and using it for our vital bodily processes, and eventually, over months, possibly, recovery of menstrual status, so you might start actually menstruating again, and that increases your reproductive hormones. We've got estrogen helping us to be able to create bone again. And then over years, we finally hopefully get back to recovering a little bit of our bone mineral density, and we've got our energy status and hormones and bone formation all happening normally. So we actually start to recover our bone as we get to the process of probably years. So what's our goal? We want you to have a positive body image. We want you to reach and maintain a healthy weight and body composition that allows you to compete, and also helps you to think positively about who you are. And make sure that you don't have psychological issues that are telling you that you're not good enough and that you need to lose weight or that your body needs to look a different way. Your body is always beach ready and that you are beautiful. And there's certain programs that can help with that. And we're going to explore some of those at Clarion University in the future years. I'm going to be a part of that change. So what else you can do right now? You can monitor and track your menstrual cycle. You can evaluate, do you eat 3 meals or more a day do you snack regularly? Maybe you record one day on MyFitnessPal. And let me say that with the caveat that if you do have an eating disorder or disordered eating, and you know that, maybe you don't record this day and you work with a health professional, such as a registered dietitian like myself. And how do you feel about your self-image? Do you need some help thinking positively about this area? Can you talk to a coach, a parent, someone else, a registered dietitian about this area to get you the help that you need? What else you can do is eat a nutrient-rich, well-balanced diet, and you got to include enough calcium and vitamin D for healthy bones. You can exercise in moderate amounts. Again, this is going to depend on what your coach wants you to do. So if she's asking you to do more, you're going to need more energy, more food. You can get plenty of rest, find ways to reduce your stress level, meditate, yoga, some good stress-reducing types of things, or talk to a parent, coach, doctor, or counselor if you think that you might need some help. You've got to share these things. And in thinking about who's on your team, these are all people that should be on a multidisciplinary team that can help you. Parents, coaches, your physician, a registered dietitian, a mental health provider is going to be key, and that can be happening through campus wellness. You do have access to those. And then an athletic trainer and a physical therapist. These are all people that can be involved in making sure that you either don't have the female athlete triad or that you are in treatment if you are diagnosed. So what have we learned today? I would ask you, what are the 3 components of the female athlete triad? Can you name them? Amenorrhea, low energy availability, amenorrhea, oligamenorrhea, so not menstruating normally, and then bone health. Provide an example of which athletes might be at higher risk for the female athlete triad, and can you explain why this might be the case? Aesthetic athletes that they need to look a certain way for performance, athletes that have a weight class, such as boxing or lightweight rowing, and athletes that are sort of anti-gravitational. Those are athletes like runners and triathletes and people who have to come off the ground, just like Mary Kane. What is a possible treatment option for the female athlete triad? First and foremost, increase energy availability. You don't need to automatically go on birth control. In fact, the research does not support that birth control actually helps to recover bone. And here are my references. And thank you very much. I appreciate your time today, and I'm looking forward to answering any questions you may have about the female athlete triad. Thank you.